and welcome esports fans to the IeSF 10th World Championship Series. My name is Superman. I'm joined here by Preacher.
How's it going?
It's going fantastic. We already had Tekken 7 on your screen today, and next up, it's League of Legends here in beautiful Kaohsiung City.
I mean, I'm just glad to be here, right? This is my first experience in Taiwan. It's a late night, but it is very early in the tournament. We're still in groups, and we're deciding who comes out on top in Group E.
Yeah, tonight we do have a matchup for you from Group E, as Preacher said. It's going to be Chinese Taipei versus Georgia. And of course, there is also Mexico in their group. And I'm excited to see, this massive arena behind us, packed to the rim with fans ready for some League of Legends action.
It goes without saying, but I also think that Mexico are very curious to watch this match, because when you take a look at how the group stands, they're maybe ranked number 3 on the list. They have performed a little bit poorly in the past, so looking at who really takes the pit in this game will really set them up to potentially advance in the future.
And for sure, because coming into this evening, we do have Chinese Taipei, the host city. They're coming in as the clear favorites for the tournament with a great lineup as well. So it will be very curious indeed to watch how this particular match sets us up for the rest of the tournament to come.
Yeah, of course. And for all of you watching at home, unfortunately not all of the games can be broadcast because there are a ton of games. So of course we are just bringing you the ones that we do believe are the best. And between Taipei and Georgia, this is really going to be a cracker of a match, especially seeing as we're kicking it off with the home team.
No better way to go about it. And as you mentioned, there's so many games because we do have 26 different countries, teams here representing their nations and fighting it out on stage for the chance at the title, of course. Today, we have the group stages, and then tomorrow we'll have more of the beginnings of those playoffs, the semifinals leading into day 3 with the finals on that massive stage you see behind us, the beautiful lights, sound, cameras, and effects, putting it all live here for you.
Look, I can't wait to see that, but of course everything must be funneled back because we are still in group stages. We got to decide who actually makes it into the playoff bracket before we can actually get onto that final stage, and look, everybody is vying for that cup. Let's talk about these two teams specifically, all right? Because, we cannot talk about this entire tournament without talking about Chinese Taipei. And oh my word, they have performed massively in the past. When you take a look at their performance, they're consistently ranked about number 3, of course, behind the powerhouses of China and also Korea. But this is really potentially their year to pull it back. No jet lag, none of that foreign stuff. You're eating your home cuisine. You are sitting here with your team. Everybody else has been flying while you've been practicing. Everything's aligning for them.
And of course, to kick things off in the opening ceremony, we even had BB come out here on stage. World 2 season, he's a champion. Putting on a show for us and saying hello to all the fans and getting us hyped up for League of Legends in particular. Now, coming into the games tonight, Preacher, the meta. We are just coming off the back of Worlds, where we saw the top lane kind of be the scrappy fights, those bruisers going back and forth, but we've heard some whispers of more heavy carry top laners or more around that mid-jungle where you're going to have assassins coming out, maybe getting some early snowballs for these teams.
So first and foremost, I got to tone you a little bit back. We are on 8.22, but this was not the biggest patch in history. There were very minor changes.
For sure.
One of which, for certain, that I actually really want to touch on is the Akali nerf. I think that this was one of the most balanced ways that Riot could have brought it down. It means that a Twilight Shroud has a longer cooldown at earlier levels without any CDR. That's one of the best ways to actually hit it because it means that she can't do any of those turret diving without really turret diving mechanics. And I think that means that she'll be maybe taken out of play. But besides that, everything else that you saw at Worlds should be on the books for today.
So if Akali is going to be somewhat less priority, I wouldn't want to say no priority.
Oh, of course, she's still up there.
Somewhat less. What would you like to see coming out maybe in those first rounds of bans or picks?
Well, if you're talking about the mid lane specific, right, then you have to look towards all of the ones that did really well. Galio is, of course, very safe. It means that you can flex a damage dealer in the top lane, so you don't really need to worry about that whole being plugged in your team composition. Another good one is, of course, LeBlanc. We've seen it pop off at Worlds, and look, nothing's really changed to us, so if nothing's changed, you don't need to change the strategy.
No, not at all. And I like that you mentioned Galio. I would love to see maybe some of those Jarvan Galio or the Camille Galio that we saw brought out at Worlds, even though we are on that more future patch. It's the Camille Galio using Hextech Ultimatum and then the Heroic Entrance. I love that combo because you're always going to lock at least one person down.
And you also just forgot about the couple of steps beforehand. You know, she also hook shots over a wall and she flashes, so she's covering
away.
Yeah, it's like 2,000 range. You're like, did this really happen? Why is Galio cannonballing on top of me? Why can't I escape? This isn't fun for me at all. Maybe it's fun for the viewers. Let's jump into it.
Well, I mean, we've talked about the Camille, but it's taken away. Right. First ban away.
They know. They know. They've been reading them.
They're not going to have any of that.
No, of course not. And beyond that, you know, you also expect the very standard ones. Alistar is still extremely strong. Engage supports in general. If Tahm Kench is not banned, I would really, first of all, I would question it. But second of all, I would think that it would be very top priority pick.
Yeah, and this draft is turning out to be quite similar to what we did see at Worlds just a month ago. The Alistar taken away in first round is very important. You can see that there's such engage potential out of a champion like that can, of course, set things up for some of those other engage tools we were just talking about.
And, of course, everything that we talk about in terms of champion select is in general.
Yes.
When you take a look at these teams, of course, these players will have their comfort picks, their preferred picks. So everything has a mini-meta in and of itself. This Urgot ban, not really seen in competitive. Maybe it is simply because Legionnaire up there really does like that champion, likes it into pretty much every single matchup. Taking away comfort picks means much more than you realize coming into tournaments like this.
Oh, absolutely. And when you're taking away those comfort picks, you may force them onto something that they're not prepared to bring out, something they haven't had in scrims. And so coming forward into a tournament like this, what are you left for? You're trying to squeeze together, sometimes at the last minute, some sort of team composition or strategy that you might not have had practiced, and especially not against your opponent.
Now, Superman, I know that was a rhetorical question, but I'm going to answer it anyway.
Please do.
What can you bring out if Urgot and also Aatrox is banned in the top lane? I'm going to say Ornn. Ornn has been such a powerhouse, not really picked at the later stages of the Worlds, but this could definitely be his resurgence. Nothing's changed. He's still that top lane tank. Nobody can really deal with him except maybe Irelia, who I got to kind of point out, she's not on the ban list.
Yeah, not at all. Which kind of leaves a lot of things open here. Powerhouse picks for first round red side. I expect to see the jungle picked early here. Aurelia, a great flex between both top and mid. You and I were talking prior to the cast about where Aurelia can be flexed to, but now we kind of throw that out the window with Victor coming in. But both of those can be flexed between the solos.
Yeah, Sneaky also loves to play Victor in ADC,
true.
so you can literally do anything with this. But no, let's just assume what is real. Victor, he did get changed this patch, so the AP Victor is much more viable.
Right.
It was Riot's way of trying to push him more towards the AP route, but his breakpoint is around 450 AP according to my mathematics. So if they want to take him into mid lane, then this is going to be a very slow game for Georgia.
And they'd like it to be that way. And I think this is a great answer from Chinese Taipei, taking away the Rakan to match with the aggression that Lucian can provide, and of course then denying the Lovers duo from evolving perhaps throughout this draft for Georgia.
And that's definitely what they need to look at. I mean, you can't be giving away a duo to your opponents. And quite frankly speaking, I was a little bit surprised why it wasn't broken up earlier. But all of these are pretty much exactly what we expect. This Rengar pick, that is completely out of the blue. You're taking a look at Dapper and you're just wondering to yourself, is this guy a solo queue monster who is just ruining all of my LP experiences in games? You know, I got a win streak, I run into him and I completely lose. Maybe that's the case, but a whole plethora of tank junglers are still available for the side of Georgia.
And he's got already 2 excellent targets for Thrill of the Hunt. He can go on to a Victor that may be behind, and Aurelia, if ever set behind, is just a useless champion, let's be honest here. Without the ultimate, I'm going to throw it out there.
Look, I'm going to say that Irelia is still relevant in all parts of the game, even when behind Victor, though, that is a hard feed. You've seen it in solo queue. I can guarantee you, if you play League of Legends and you had a Victor in your team die once, he doesn't stop dying. You know, it's either you get ahead or you get behind. There's no middle ground.
Yeah, I mean, you end up just getting a 14-day suspension on Twitch or something like that.
Too soon.
Too soon. All right. But look here, evolving into the second round of bans, all the way now into the second round of picks, we can see heavy jungle focus onto Remy X. Well, I mean, they've got the Rengar. They definitely don't want to deal with something like the Kindred. They can use Lambra Spite to stop some of that front-end burst damage and maybe deleting out some priority target. So what do you expect to see? Are we going to see the Xin Zhao, perhaps something, or Lee Sin, I mean, something more aggressive for that early game
Look,
focus.
Xin Zhao has a very good win rate, and for good reason, because his early game ganks are ridiculous. He just needs to be very careful in this matchup, because if Rengar ever finds him inside of his own jungle, then he is pretty much just free gold, waiting to be handed over to the side of Dapper. So Dapper needs to play very smart, needs to play a vision-oriented game, which sounds very strange in this current patch, but that's the way that it's got to go.
Yeah, no Sightstone from the jungle, nothing, no Tracker's Knife or anything like that to help track these assassins through the jungle, through the river. So some of that scuttle priority is definitely something for us to be watching early. I like this Gragas pickup. It's definitely going to help. Where do you think the solo lanes are actually going to end up here for Chinese Taipei?
Well, obviously, I think that Lissandra is going to go into the mid lane. That's actually something that I wanted to touch on here, Superman, because when you looked at Worlds last year, it was pretty much Malzahar mid-meta. You took a look at Malzahar, he did absolutely nothing until the semis and then the finals, and then he was 100% pick ban pretty much, and he was just the hero of that entire tournament. This year, it has definitely been Lissandra. Think about it. Both of their ultimates do very similar things. They make sure that the opponents can't have fun playing League of Legends. And look, when it comes to the micro mechanics of how they interact with the keystones, Lissandra just wins out on this one. I think that she's a super strong champion, and there's really not a lot to say about it other than to let it speak for itself in the game.
Absolutely. And I got to also touch on the Lissandra pick, thinking of how excellent of a pick it is to follow up. You've got the grand entrance and, of course, the quickness to set up a team fight. And then Dapper can flank in, separate that fight if need be. And then you've got the Lissandra to follow up any of that crowd control, lock any single target down, or be that aftershock target that just soaks so much damage.
But hold up. I do believe this is actually going to be a jungle Gragas, because they're not changing it, and it's coming down to single digits. A top lane Rengar going into a Victor. We know that Victor gets punished very early on, but this is something else.
That's definitely unexpected, Preacher. I would not have expected that swap. I would have expected, that tank Gragas top lane, Lissandra in mid lane. That's a little bit more standard, but with the Rengar in the top lane, so much brush control, I can only imagine that they're going to put so much pressure and priority into the top side of the map. That's the only way you can really play that pick.
And it's a smart matchup, because a lot of Victors, especially in top lane, max Q first, go for that Q trade. E trade would be more optimal into Rengar because he's in a brush all the time, but you can't do that because, of course, that scales with AP. On this patch, you need more AP than you need anything else. This is just a punishment in double digits, and I think that they might have just outplayed them in the pick-a-ban phase.
It seems that way. The Victor matchup is just, it seems like it's just going to be hell, unless you get those lucky Klepto procs that give you extra wards or something to keep the vision control.
All the wards. You'd be looking at Slice Axe of Gold, and you'd be wondering, why could this not be a green ward? I just need it to be vision.
Yeah, exactly. You get 120 gold out of the Slice Axe, and you're like, this isn't what I need right now.
It's not worth. It is strictly not worth. But of course, you can still control the Rengar if you go back, and if you dump pretty much all of your money onto control wards. It shouldn't be the hardest lane. It's just when Gragas visits it in conjunction with the Rengar jumping, that's when it becomes a nightmare.
It will be very curious to see if they continue the pressure just in that winning matchup, or if they decide to keep that priority pushing the Victor into his turret with the Q-Max, not that great wave clear. So you're going to be at your turret so often, maybe that frees up the Rengar to just gank mid over and over and over. So much gank assist with that Lissandra pick too.
Of course, but that would have to come into the mid game. When we're talking about the early game, it's top focus. You take a look at mid lane, very safe lane, very dominant lane for the Lissandra also. When you take a look at bot lane, Lucian Rakan, could you really ask for anything better? Maybe a Lucian Braum, but of course it was picked on the other side. So all of this is stacking up very strong in Taipei's favor for the very first game. You just have to look at the top side to make sure that Rengar gets scaling against the Victor.
And speaking of scaling, it seems like there's a lot more teamfight composition oriented towards red side over here. Georgia seems like they'd love to take the mid game to late game fights if they can make it there.
If they can. And of course, you also got to take a look at the pixel perfect execution. They have a lot of ways to deal with the Rengar. Of course, Tristana can jump even after she's rooted from Rengar's E, and she can also knock him back with the ultimate, but that has to be very on point, because if she doesn't get it pixel perfect, not when he lands on her, but when he starts jumping, he's got a one-shot her.
That's the hope for Chinese Taipei, is that they get a Rengar that's fed. You know how bad it can feel if you don't have the one-shot potential on that Rengar. How do you go in? You don't have a Shen to follow that up. You don't have any sort of Nocturne to make it even more scrappy. It's hard to initiate as an assassin like that, but they also do have those tools. Of course, the quickness, and of course, you have Frozen Tomb on your other initiators to come in and maybe set some things up for you, or at least split up those fights so that Rengar can really hunt down his targets.
You get a pass on that one, Superman, because we're all tuned to pretty much top and jungle doing all of the engages, but when you have a Lissandra going in with her own self-ultimate as well as that Aftershock and the Rakan, you'd be a little bit excited to see all of that engage potential. So, you know, we've seen the meta, we've seen the fact that if you can gank a lane, you pretty much get a free turret. Let's see them execute it early.
I would love to see that. I guess it will come down to jungle priority then. I'll be very interested to see the pathing out of the Gragas versus Xin Zhao, because Xin Zhao's going to have a lot better trading potential early, especially if they meet in the river. So I guess we're loaded here onto Summoner's Rift. Again, this is our single game of the day. Group E. We've got Chinese Taipei versus Georgia.
Let's have a quick chat about the Georgia matchup, because of course we were caught off guard with the trade between Rengar and Gragas, but that actually does suit the jungle side of Georgia. You take a look at the Xin Zhao and you say, that would have been a disastrous pick into the Rengar. If he ever found the Xin Zhao was just dead to rights. However, going into this Gragas, very easy to avoid. In fact, he even wins the trade in a single 1v1. So this is much more advantageous in terms of the actual jungle. If Xin Zhao wants to go back, get his warrior early, and then start making his way onto the map, he's not going to get punished.
Yeah, it's entirely possible that with this leash here from the top side, he could do just a quick 3-camp base, get that knife, and then start out from there, maybe looking for those early ganks. Or I would love to see a spicy level 2 gank top lane.
I mean, that is always the cheese, right? You take Q, you take E. What more do you need on this champion? He can pretty much take it anyway, but the safe way, of course, is to go down and to make sure that you do not actually meet the Gragas, because Xin Zhao, until he gets his first item, is weak. It's sort of like that paradox where he is an early game champion, but he needs one item to be that early game.
But he does get spotted out by a ward. A little far up in the lane, but that brush control, full ferocity, you don't really want to take this fight against that Rengar.
No, I mean, all eyes are on that, right? When you pick something that is so abnormal like a Rengar top, your jungle's going to be focusing on it, but also their jungle's going to be focusing on it. It's a double-edged sword that currently he's playing not too badly, because he's watered it out. He's very cognizant of the fact that he's going to be focused, and this is working out, but here's a return gank.
This is so surprising that Xin Zhao's spending extra time top lane. He should have known that he walked over that ward, and trying to go for an invade seems like you're just trying to play a little bit too ahead of yourself.
But he doesn't read the fact that Gragas started on bot side and is doing a full clear. He could have easily stolen that blue. Misinformation means that he doesn't go for it and he doesn't do that super punish, but it all works out. It means that there are no trades very early on, and it means that things are still very standard.
Yeah, Gragas has a little bit of that early priority. You can see he's already got that extra camp. He's going to get this scuttle, which will leave them with the vision control on the spot side having priority as well if they want to get that early cloud break. Not really a great prize for this team for this early play, but you'll take what you can get.
Hey, every single cloud counts. I mean, when you're going into both of these two teams, it is essential that you either get to run towards them or run away from them. You wouldn't be unhappy if you were on either of these two teams. I mean, Rengar goes without saying. The ultimate, you want to run faster, but also the Victor, because one of the key ways that he beats people in mid to late game is the fact that his Iceborne Gauntlet is constantly procced, and he's always cutting people around.
And it's going to do fantastic in this game, because you imagine there won't be a ton of magic damage coming out of the Gragas pick and the Lissandra. You'll be basically dealing with this Lucian who will be dancing around the fights, and you know, Tank Rakan just doing what he can to apply crowd control, and Rengar will be that main champion that Victor will have to deal with, and having all that armor is going to do great for him.
That is in air quotations, though, because tank supports have definitely taken a very big beating. I mean, even if you build 6 hypothetical items on a support, you're still extremely very squishy, so he has to be pixel perfect, and he also has to make sure that as soon as they come out of CC, they're more or less dead, because if they're not, then he is. So picking out these pixel perfect engages, that is his job.
Yeah, it's all quiet on the home front so far, though, as we're waiting for those first true ganks to come through. We'll remind you that Xin Zhao was spotted out by the ward topside, and you can see Rengar's already shown up huge, having the priority in top lane despite a small CS deficit, but you can see Dapper says, hey, I got the vision for you. There's no way that you're going to have Xin Zhao show up and you not be aware of it.
Still playing buddy-buddy, holding each other's hands, making sure that they don't give away anything that they don't absolutely have to. And the fact that it's going so even. Actually, hold on a second.
Yeah, this is landed. Wow, the flash body slam is enough first blood in the top lane. It's going to be taken by Dapper. It's the buddy in the top lane, working out fantastic in the early game for Chinese Taipei.
And check that out. It doesn't even matter that Xin Zhao's visited 3 times. It doesn't matter that there's constant pressure. One gank from a Gragas, the flash body slam, no real counterplay, and they get the first blood over to their team. Unfortunately, it was onto the Gragas as opposed to the Rengar, but assist gold means that he's still going to be up, and he's still going to have slightly more assassination potential. Let's check this one out again. He's pretty much just running in with Predators. Hey, I got my Yeezys on, and bam, the perfect flash to just get the first blood.
Yeah, you said pixel perfect. That's what you just saw from the Gragas, flashing through the minions and able to pick up that kill. Fantastic play on the top side, and they want to answer with Xin Zhao. I mean, there's no vision now until he steps into the river. There's
there
a
it is.
controller,
They know it now.
He's so far up, he might actually be gankable. Nice chains there as Xin Zhao puts in the vision. Knock up on the third hit's going to come through. Taipei is pulling in the TP play. Look at this rush control. It's just enough damage.
He lives.
Tries to get a little bit. And the flash forward. Rengar's alive. They're going to go for more blood. The slow will come through as well. Legionnaire flashes away, and he should be safe to escape this gank. But man, disaster erupting.
You are kidding me. That was ridiculous. He saved his E until the very last second, healed as much as possible because his base stone is missing HP, and then Lissandra comes in, locks everybody down, and picks up the kill. If that isn't teamwork, I don't know what is. The fact that they are paying so much attention and also so many resources over to the top side and having it work out, this is an absolute nightmare of a game for Georgia right now.
Yeah, the discipline to pull off that play, hold on the ferocity, get that heal, and of course the CC reduction. It's fantastic. You can see why they decided to go for this Rengar so early in the draft. It puts so much priority in top lane, but a fight scrappy in mid. Bloom he's trying to get as much as he can back for his team because he knows they're struggling on the map.
And that was a little bit too quick on the trigger finger from Lissandra. Of course, when Irelia goes for the damage reduction, you can't really do too much to her, so she did unfortunately blow that ultimate. It's on a fairly low cooldown at level, at rank number 1, sorry, so she's not going to have access to that tool for quite a while, but it's all good for the time being because Irelia, she's not at her first item power spike. She's had to itemize towards the Merc Treads, which admittedly, if anything, means that she gets to roam a little bit faster, but in terms of damage, she is severely lacking behind.
Absolutely. Now, Preacher, I just want to see more of this focus in the top side. You can see Xin Zhao, what is this, his 5th time to top lane? They're going to try it again. Remember, now, Lucky is down his flash, uses the brush control to jump out.
Oh, no.
And he, of course, is going to get that heal. 300 health back, and the Chaos Storm is just going to tickle him as he backs off to his turret. All this pressure and topside's not doing anything for Georgia.
This kind of feels like the scenario where you're fighting your big brother and he's just sort of holding your head away and you're swinging frantically at him, but you can't even get him. They're paying so much attention over to here, and they just cannot get him. I mean, it's a heartbreaker to watch, to be honest.
Yeah, now they spot out Xin Zhao. Predator has been popped. Dapper's on the way. He has explosive cast. Nice flash there from the Xin Zhao. And of course, that means Unseen Predator will not be used to its greatest extent just so far. But now you see Rengar pushed into turret. He's working towards that Black Cleaver. Or maybe even, do you expect Triforce?
Oh,
What's the longsword doing there?
That is a push. I think that longsword does mean that he's going towards the Black Cleaver. However, in the mid lane,
a little bit of a trade back and forth. But again, Aurelia is not able to find those windows to actually get a full-on engage. I haven't seen the ultimate come out.
the way that it works is that Jess is always going to be playing very far back. He can CS with his Q, which once it shatters through minions, it's just such long range. It means that there's no real engage potential in a 1v1 for that Aurelia. I think that Aurelia just needs to abuse the fact that she rushed boots too early and just go to either of the side lanes to use that ulti.
I like that point, Preacher. With the boots too, you'll actually be able to move very quickly through the river, and if your Xin Zhao can at least accompany you elsewhere, you should be able to lock down any single target, even in that dual lane bottom lane. But topside, we've got action again.
There it is.
Victor, no flash. He's dead to rights. We'll see if they actually give the kill over. No, the Gragas is going to take it. Dapper, he's 2-0 already, only 9 minutes into the game.
The theory is that if you give it over to your jungler, then he can affect much more of the map with that gold. It means that he can get towards his AP item as opposed to a tank item very early on. We've seen a little bit of hubris, but it goes a very long way. It certainly does mean that with all of these squishies on the map, he can inflict a whole lot of damage by himself, not even requiring his teammates.
That is the hope, at least, if they can translate that gold lead to more lanes on the map. It's been quite quiet, but let's take a look at this replay of how they were able to pick off Victor again.
And this is a very simple one. He comes over with the blast cone, doesn't even need a flash because, of course, he used it in a previous engage, and with all of that lockdown, with the Rengar E as well, it's just a last auto attack that takes him down.
Yeah, buddy in that top lane, and it looks like Dragon's going to be taken here by Georgia on the bottom side of the map. They're pushed way up to the turret, so they have to know Xin Zhao's close by.
I mean, I'm going to take back my words. Before I said that Cloud Drake was good on both of these two teams, but when you have a 0-2 victory in the top lane, it definitely doesn't feel like that, because it means you're not going to be running away from the Rengar. You're probably not going to be running away from a Gragas, because it's Flash on top of you, and it's just going to be a nightmare scenario all the way around.
Yeah, at least the little bit of extra move speed will help him at least run away, which seems to be the theme in top lane right now. Let's take a look at bottom lane, Preacher. It's been so quiet down here with either team trading pressure, trading priority in the bottom lane, where, you know, Tristana with that perma push because of Explosive Shot, but now it seems with the Cutlass, Bebe and your son, they have a lot of kill threat. Grand Entrance and quickness available, but top side of the map, we could have a counter gank.
This could potentially be it. However, Xin Zhao is walking away. This is extremely dangerous, but I think both of these two junglers recognize the threat of the scenario. In bottom lane,
that's the flash engage we were just waiting for. I wanted to see it happen 10 seconds ago, but we were going to have that gank in the top lane. So that's what we were looking for, the flash quickness, grand entrance, where you just lock any single target down.
And that's exactly how you play this matchup. You know that Tristana's already gone for the Berserker's Greaves. How do you counter that? By making sure that she can't even use the movement speed in top lane.
Oh, they're visiting once again. Look at the damage! You said, donate that gold to your jungler. He can make something happen on the map. Why not top lane once again?
I mean, he's just a sitting duck at this point, and look at how succulent it is. We're actually going to check out the bottom lane, not the top lane, but it's just BB going forward, and then the engage afterwards. Don't you just love it when you engage as the ADC and your support follows up?
Yeah, and during that replay, they also lost Xin Zhao on the top side. He tried to defend the turret, but was picked off again. Look at these fed junglers here. You got Dapper, 3-0, and then, of course, I call Rengar a jungler because he's just living in the brush, right? He's got 2-0-3. Now, of course, he's only got 2 stacks of that passive, having only been involved in kills on either Xin Zhao or Victor. So we'll have to see if he decides to go elsewhere or if he still presses that advantage in top lane.
Yeah, only you say. However, when you check the clock, 12 minutes into the game, you'd be a pretty happy Rengar at this point. Now he can even make his way towards the bottom side. That ultimate is lethal onto a Tristana at this level. They just keep on going at it.
Yeah, it seems like top lane is the mid lane of old, and they've swapped kind of roles where we have the wet noodle fights in mid lane now, and top lane is where all the action is.
Look, one of the things that I definitely need to point out as we check out how Xin Zhao died, so this is a curiosity to you as much as it is to me. He's trying to defend the turret, but when 2 people dive, he jumps in, already anticipating his death, and it's a very easy pass over to the Rengar.
A little late ult there.
No, yeah, but the thing that I wanted to really touch on before was the fact that this TP has never actually been used by Rengar before. I mean, we're already at the nearly 13-minute mark where he hasn't TP'd to anywhere on the map, not even back to his own lane, could potentially influence the rest of the map with that.
Yet again, another engage in the bot lane. Quickness on cooldown. Nice culling, actually. Gets Faust quite low. Does not have Unbreakable available, but now there's a 2v2, and that explosive cast just insane. Look at the damage just ripping through. Chaos Storm started to look like it might do something, but that's a double kill for now a 4-0 Rengar.
I mean, is that just a checkmate scenario where if you gank top lane, you lose, and if you don't gank it, it loses anyway by itself? This is just looking like a hard punishment, and we're not even talking about BB, the star of bottom lane, really doing that pretty much double kill by himself.
Indeed, and first break in the top lane, followed by what I assume will be another one quite shortly here on the next wave, and bottom means that gold lead is massive, almost 6,000 and only 14 minutes in the game, Preacher. This seems insurmountable for Georgia.
Look, it's getting to that point, and you also have to check out the fact that this is a much more early game-centered composition from the side of Chinese Taipei. Coming up into the top lane, he gets ganked. But does he really get ganked when Rengar is nearby? He jumps in knowing that Gragas, sorry, is so close, busts him away, and then with the Echo, just takes him down.
It just seems so ambitious to gank without the Xin Zhao ultimate there.
I mean, yeah, that would have mitigated so much, but, you know, they're really grasping at straws here, where they're trying as much as they can. To bottom lane, here's a TP.
Yeah, actually 2 TPs coming through. This is going to be a full-on 5v5 in the bottom lane. Xin Zhao is the first to get quite into this fight, and then we'll see if Lissandra actually does use the ult on the target. That's going to be Rabbit's first blood in this fight. See if they're actually going to get combo. Ignite ticks down. That's going to be Lucian falling as well as they come in to clean up on the back end. Remix. Wow.
I mean, they finally get to pick up a couple of kills, so you got to give them props for that. However, it's still an uneven trade where 3 of their members go down. Georgia still losing the overall trade. Very well played, especially to the Rakan in that situation, to re-engage, to make sure that his teammate survives throughout that whole ordeal. But when you check it all out, this is the best possible play that they could have gone for. The engage and the triple TP coming in on the backside, not enough damage onto Bebe, and immediately, as soon as Lissandra comes in, you know that Tristana's either dead now or dead later. There's the later. Flash, also W, isn't going to get you out of that scenario. No ADC, means nobody's pumping out damage, and yeah, there's the perfect engage back. Of course BB dies, but at least he gets a kill back for his name.
Yeah, trades it there. It's so difficult to try and win that fight if you're giving Lissandra that free flank engage. You're already rocket jumping forward, trying to use that stand behind me. Glacial Fissure, all of that aggressively on the front end means if those TPs come in from behind you or later on, flanks from around that lane, you're going to run into a lot of trouble with that kind of a team fight.
And that's what I was pointing out, the fact that Rengar hadn't used his TP until the pixel-perfect situation. He saw a fight in the bottom lane in which he knew for absolute certain Victor was going to teleport down. He matches it. Lissandra comes down as well. This is the perfect type of communication that we want to see in this tournament. This is why they should be scared.
I mean, we're hunting wabbits at this point as the Tristana is going to fall for the third time this game and in very quick succession, but we got to dive in mid lane. Lissandra's so tanky with the aftershock. The self-ultimate for some healing, and of course, just survives and almost turns around an extra kill. Flashing forward aggressively, now Dapper's here to say, hello, have my drink too.
My
and
word.
Solo kills on the side, and man, this is just a slaughterhouse. Chinese Taipei taking it to camp here for Georgia.
Superman, that is ridiculous. When 3 people gank mid, they don't respect the power of the Lissandra ultimate. They take 2 turret hits more than they absolutely need to. Back out. And then the hubris to flash in. I mean, it just works out perfectly. Check that out. She stuns it under the turret. And then finally the self-ultimate. But that's not the end of the story. You get absolutely more. Flash right back because she sees the Braum. Very nice sidestep dodge, but it's just not enough when everybody else collapses on. Free kill for the Rengar, goes in for more.
Yeah, and more stacks with a passive for Lucky as well. He's just feasting on these enemies at this point, and they were able to get Shelly through not just that mid lane turret, but a second and then a charge onto the inhibitor turret in mid lane, which means it's not long for this world in that mid lane. The inhibitor should fall shortly.
I mean, that is definitely a punishing factor. You take a look over at Georgia, and you might be tempted to criticize them and say, why are they rotating a little bit slower than the side of Chinese Taipei? However, the reason is because they can't afford to rotate faster. They can't afford to meet them on the same ground. Even if they did, it's very unlikely that they could beat them in that sort of scenario, especially the Victor. I mean, look, we've been hammering him for a while, but you got to call a spade a spade. You got to take a look and say, Victor only scales one way or the other. This game, he's gone 0-4. He's definitely gone the other.
Yeah, it was a nice draft from Chinese Taipei to kind of play into that Victor and say, yeah, we'll take the matchup, give you that pick for the top lane. Oh, guess what? We've got the Rengar pocket pick coming out of the brush in the top lane, and we'll focus you as well and make your day hell in the top lane. Man, I mean, at this point, Legionnaire just really didn't get to play League of Legends.
No, he definitely didn't. And look, you said the 14-day suspension. Look, I'm just taking a look at this picture. I'm saying I don't think that the Klepto's really making up in the gold disparity.
No, not at all. And speaking of gold, it's now 10,000 separating these two teams. And
not even 20 minutes.
Yeah, not even. I mean, Baron's not even on the map. You can only imagine how quickly they'll be able to melt that objective if they so choose.
Especially given the fact that Rengar now has so much power to just split push. Look, he took that for free because nobody can afford to go to him. I'm not too certain that 2 or 3 people can even afford to go to him. And as soon as the 20-minute mark hits, then it's going to be an absolute nightmare as the side of Georgia decide where they want to go.
Oh, nice use of the Xin Zhao ultimate, but it's not going to be enough as that's killing spree for the top lane. A double kill for Rengar, and they're just cleaning house at this point, running over, mowing them through their own jungle. Brush controls there, especially when you have a lawnmower of a Rengar.
I mean, this is a family broadcast, right? But at the current moment, I think a few things need to be censored over here, Superman. You take a look at the way that Taipei is just moving around the entire map. They are making a show out of this. They are making sure that they are making more or less the optimal decisions moving around, taking as much gold as they possibly can. They're playing to not lose in this moment, which when you're 17-2 is very disadvantageous to your opponents.
I don't know. Pushing down the outer turrets into the inner turrets while doing a 4-1 seems a little inefficient to me when you have this kind of a gold lead. I'd love to see them doing more of a 1-3-1. and using the Rengar ultimate to bring pressure into that middle lane.
But why exactly would you even do that when your composition could just hard dive? You got the Lissandra ultimate and of course the giant leap and also the knockback coming out from the Gragas. So if you use all of those in tandem, a turret doesn't really count as a turret anymore, and Georgia might just find themselves defenseless as they're scrambling to defend their base.
At that point then, Preacher, is Georgia just sitting ducks inside their own base? Why not have Chinese Taipei just 5-man it straight up the mid lane and take this down?
Well, the reason is because we just hit the 20-minute mark and Baron is available. You know, we have seen the miracle Baron steals, and at this point, that is exactly what Georgia is banking on. 17-2, not a whole lot of ways in order to recover from this. 6 turrets to 0, haven't broken down a single structure inside of this game. They might be relying on a miracle Baron to keep him in.
I mean, it's always the possibility, the 50-50s, if you don't set up your vision properly. But I gotta say, down 2 levels in the jungle means your smite's really not gonna contest.
No, I mean, the smite's not gonna work for you. You really have to time everything on your team, and I mean, pretty much just the Victor E at this point. I mean, if you can time a Victor E with your smite, you could catch him off guard. I'm doing all the hypotheticals in my head. It's not looking too great.
No, not at all. Nice culling to force the flash away from Legionnaire. And man, it's got to feel bad if you're caught away from your team when you're already 0-4. They're engaging off the side. This has got to be just a Legion. First kill goes for Bebe. He's going in deeper. And there's the Rengar showing up in that jungle. This big cat is just ripping through the entire Georgian lineup. Legionnaire down his flash, barely surviving with 50 health. One more flash forward will do it, and that is the ace. It's over. Sit on down. They're going to get a free Baron. I mean, Rengar said, let me start this up for you. And it looks like it's just, I mean, what?
Yeah, that's more or less pretty much the story of this game. They hard dove that base, and they managed to make the most out of it. Baron is simply a formality, Superman. Once they pick this one up for themselves, they'll be pushing straight into the base with it. There's not a whole lot that the side of Georgia can do to defend it. It's one of those games where you take a look at top and you take a look at jungle and you say, those two hard carried our team. Meanwhile, checking out this replay and how it all started, I just love the fact that Chinese Taipei relies so much on Bebe to get so much of the lead in order to start these team fights. And as soon as it does, he is in such a good position with all of the engage on his team to just rip through. And this is pretty much 100-0 coming out from the Gragas. A little bit of a help from Rakan, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that he does all the hard work and just leaves the last hitting down to Lucian.
And those are those early advantages that they got so early from the top lane, just coming through huge. For Dapper in particular, 4-0-10. He's deathless, and he's built so tanky to make sure, as you said, the star, Bebe, can just put out the damage and not have a care in the world.
That's why I questioned so much why he was going to AP early on. Usually when you get ahead, you build defensive to make sure that they can't kill you and you can continue murdering them. All worked out for the better, because as soon as he gets this armor item that his Chain Vest is building into, there's not a lot that can really stop him. I mean, at this point, turrets don't really mean anything to him anyway.
Not at all. It just melts away through them. No Sheen item needed for Dapper to just stand in front, set things up for his team, and separate the fight if needs be. But this is looks nice. Grand entrance into the knockup. That quickness was beautiful, but they have to get away from that Chaos Storm. They can get so much front-end damage. Bloom is trying to at least find some defense for his team. I mean, it's starting to look like Chinese Taipei might be overstepping themselves, not setting up the fights properly so that they can actually delete out players. Georgia might have a way back in it.
It was a simple formality. They were waiting for all 3 lanes to push in with the Baron buff, and now that they have, I'm not too sure that there's enough wave clear on the side of Georgia. They might just have to concede it to minions, if nothing else. Now they're sitting down onto Inhibitor. It's do or die. The theory is, if you don't fight under your turret, you don't fight without it.
But can Chinese Taipei even take a fight at this point? I know they have Baron buff, but they use so many of those spells there. Frozen Tomb available, but no quickness. I find it hard to see them actually taking a team fight. Maybe just the Baron buff and the Baron minions doing all the work for them.
Look, you're correct. They definitely can't fight because their engage is down. It's counterintuitive to take a look at 22-2 and say, why can't they fight? Well, without the engage tools, and they can't really get it started. But with the Baron, they certainly can play the macro game. And one by one, these inhibitors are falling. I'm not surprised that they're not relenting on the last one.
Ults go down. Teleports come through to keep those minions alive. They're just waiting for the exact, as you say, pixel perfect moment to go in, to execute with surgical precision to take down this Georgian squad. The quickness, back off cooldown, can be available if they even decide to take a fight here. That's 3 inhibitors. Double super minions are going to be the way.
There's the
split up the
back.
fight, and that's going to be the front line going instantly down. Bebe getting his 6th kill game, a double kill. Will he get the multi-kill? No, it's going to be taken by Lucky. He just says, it's my time to shine for my 11th kill. They're just going to clean house. It's going to be the Nexus next, 26-2 in a very convincing 25-minute win for Chinese Taipei.
What a composition, and more importantly, what an execution. The big boy bounce coming out from the Gragas, and I'm talking about his E and his ultimate at all points of that game. Early game, making sure that he and his top laner gets ahead, and the late game, making sure that his entire team has an actual team fight. That guy was a menace.
Yeah, he was. That first flash body slam in top lane to get them first blood showed us what we were hoping to see then on out, and he showed up huge for the rest of the match, setting up things for his team and really just murdering entirety of Summoner's Rift.
Look, but you definitely can't just put it onto him, because isolated in the bottom lane, there was a 2v2 in which Bebe came out with the kill. You got to say, all around, Chinese Taipei, they were the classier team on this day, and they definitely deserved that big bow on the stage.
Yeah, congratulations once again to Chinese Taipei. That's going to do it for us up here on the desk. Again, for myself, Superman, and Preacher, thanks for joining us.